So till now we have completed type of exception and definition of exceptions, what come under which. So most of the thing we have completed and how to handle it, right? So today we are going to learn what if we have to create our own exception, right? So there are two type of exception. One is which already we are learning, built in, right? Which you have already seen in hierarchy. Another one is user defined. Understand? So today class we are going to learn built in, already we have covered. We are going to learn user defined. Okay. So now if you see user defined or custom exception. So let us assume when we are writing a program, right? And when you are creating a project, so in that project you might have seen, like when you are looking for your ID, it's saying showing that ID not found, right? Or your name XYZ is uh, not registered, right? Invalid registration kind of exceptions you may, while using any web application and all, you may see in that, right? So those exceptions are not built-in exceptions. So those are custom exception, or programmer like us or you can create those exceptions, right? So that is the reason we call it user defined exception or custom exception. So what we have to learn here, the first step, how to create. Let us say we created the exception, okay, by following the rules and all. Then how throw that exception, how you can create the object of that exception, right? That is the first thing. The second thing, how many types of exception you can create. So how many types of exception we have? We have compile time and runtime, right? So if we are going to create a user defined exception, can we create a compile time exception or can we create a runtime exception? Okay, so user defined exception can be compile time and runtime. Clear? So user defined exception can be compile time and runtime. Okay. So now first step, as I said, like you can create your own exception, and that exception can be you can create a compile time or runtime. So first we'll follow this. Okay. Let's assume I have to create a custom exception, which is a compile time or checked, right? So what we'll do? Okay. You don't have to do anything. So pretty straightforward. The first step for checked exception. Okay. You have to go to this hierarchy. Now you see this exception class. Okay. So any exception class you take, IO exception, file not found exception, SQL exception, class not found exception, or you can itself take exception. Okay. I'm taking exception. Okay. So first, let assume we are going to create your user defined exception. So first you have to create a class. So I've created a class and then my exception. So what I said, first you have to take one class. So I'm going to create a checked exception. So I have to take a checked exception class and which I have to extends. Clear? So what I did here, I have created my class, which is going to be a user defined exception, which extend exception class. So if you extend exception class, your exception will become checked exception. If your father is Indian, you will become Indian, right? Clear or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So then how you can create a runtime exception? It's pretty straightforward. take a class and my exception, okay, extends, okay. I want to create a runtime exception. So again, you have to go to the hierarchy and you see that. So anything which come under this, if you extend any of these classes, your class will become runtime. So you can extend null pointer, index auto bound, arithmetic, class, cast exception, but always suggestible, take this one, runtime. Okay. So what I will do, I will extend runtime. So if someone asks you how many types of exception we have based on user creation and all. So you will say that there are two type. One is built-in, another one is which user define. In user define, you can have two type of exception. One is checked, another one is unchecked. One is runtime, another one is compile time. If you want to create a compile time exception, you have to extend exception class. If you want to create a runtime exception, you have to extend runtime class. So it seems pretty easy, right? And after that, what you have to do? You have to add a constructor. So I have added exception, my exception, and then there is, let us assume any message that you want to pass, string, msg, and then super, and inside the super you have to pass msg. So who is super of this? Runtime. So this value will go and assign to runtime. There is a property which will take this message. We'll explore that as well. Similarly, here also you can do that. My exception and a string msg and then super msg. Clear? So nothing much. Okay. The first
Sir,
step, yeah.
we are passing the message to the constructor of the exception class,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll do that. We'll do the coding for this. Okay. First we'll cover theoretical part and then we'll do the coding. Okay. Now three step you have. So first step to extend exception class or runtime class. If you want to create runtime exception, extend runtime. If you want to compile time, extend compile time. Right? Okay. Now if you want to define any variables and all, you can do that here. Okay, that also we'll see while doing coding. You can do that here. Okay. But major part, extend the exception class. Second, add a constructor. Why we are adding constructor? So if you want to pass any parameter, we'll see that. Like let's take example of message. So for that we need a constructor. So we'll do that. We'll add the constructor. Okay. Now the third part. So now you have a exception ready. Okay. But built-in exception are thrown by compiler, right? Or it will get generated by compiler or with the code, right? With JVM and all, and they can only handle that one, right? But in our case, who will create those exception? How compiler will know that there is exception? Okay, so for that we are having throw. Okay, with help of throw, we'll create a object of exception class. So let us assume anywhere I want to create a object of exception class. I will like throw new my exception and I will pass there is error or exception. In this way, I can create my exception class object and also I can throw that. Okay. So it's clear to you all. So if someone asks how to create an object of exception, okay, so that anywhere our code is getting used, right? They can handle that. So we'll use throw keyword. Okay. So throw new my exception, and then whatever message you want to pass it. Okay, that is the one point. We'll see that. We'll see the code and all, and then okay. So let assume if I have to write the exception, I have to create my own exception. Let assume uh, I have to write a program to find out a valid age for marriage. Okay, in India. So how we'll do that? Okay. So before writing the code, if his age is not valid, so I will create a class, exception class invalid age. Okay, which extends runtime or any checked exception. So I will just extended exception, which is clear to you all. And then what I suggested, to have constructor invalid age, and then I will have here message under, sorry, then I have here string message. Okay, and then inside that super msg, I'm just passing that message to super class. Okay, clear here? Till now it's clear, right? Okay, in the same file, in the same folder, I'm going to have a class public class test. Okay, where I'm going to write my program. Okay, so now what I will do, I will have a method public static void main, here string args. Okay, okay. So now what I will do, I will ask user to enter age. Let assume if you, and then I will store that one, int age. See, user enter 19. Okay, and then after that I will write a logic. If age is greater than 21, then system.out.print valid age, else, one second, my iPad is, you guys are able to see my screen?
Yeah, notepad.
Yes.
Yeah, notepad. Okay, fine. Okay, so system dot out dot sorry, no system dot out dot println. I will just write throw new, what is invalid age, and I will pass underage message. Okay, so when we execute this program, right? So here if age is fine, otherwise it will throw exception. Now we can handle this exception with try and catch, that we'll see. I will write some program, okay, and then we'll see. So this part is clear, right? Not difficult, only 3 steps. First, extend exception class. Second, provide constructor. Third, with throw, we have to throw the exception, okay, which may not making sense right away, but when we type that in code or ID, it will make sense. Okay, so let me do one thing. Let me open the IntelliJ. Okay, my screen is visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Test custom exception. So I have okay. Main. So now I have main and okay. So what I will do right now, first I have to create my exception class, which is user defined. So let me give a name invalid is okay. Now, so I've given the name invalid is exception. Okay. So first step to give a name to your exception and then to extend exception class and then constructor, right? So I have given here string msg and then I am passing that to super class. What is the super class for that? Exception. Invalid. Okay. So now we are ready with our custom exception, which is checked custom exception. Okay. Okay. Let me do one more thing. Public static void check age limit. Okay. So I've created one method which will check age limit. Okay. Int age. Okay. Okay. So now if age is greater than 20, there is no issue. Okay. Okay. But if age is less than 20, we have to throw exception because we are just checking the limit, right? So limit is if age is beyond 20, you are able to find, do whatever you want to do. But if your age is 20, you cannot do a registry marriage or any type of marriage in which is allowed in India. Okay. So let me throw new. Okay. So I have created this invalid exception, right? So I'm throwing this one. Okay. So it's asking to pass some information. So you are underage for marriage act. Okay. Clear what it's saying? Okay. So I'm throwing this one. Right. So when I throw this, see here. So what I said, if age is less than 20, I will throw this. When I throw this, it's saying because here in line number 22, we are having this exception, invalid age limit, you have to handle that. So I have handled also. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to the main program. Okay. So where I'm just asking user scanner sc equal to new scanner system dot in. One second. String. Sorry. Not string. Enter your age for marriage validation I'm asking user to enter his age, and then SC, I am just taking int is equal to SC dot next int, right? And then I am validating his age. So I'm doing check CHE check. 1 second. I'm passing age here. Okay. So now this is my exception class, and here I am, see what it's saying when I'm using this method, right? Check age limit. So it's saying you have to handle this exception. So I have two ways. Either I can throw invalid exception in main, which will get handled by default handler, or other way around is so I am handling this one here, invalid age exception, and I'm printing, right? So see, I have created my own checked exception and I can handle in my own way. So I will write here okay. Now if you run this one, they're asking for age. So let us assume I have entered 16. So what is saying? Please verify age detail. Okay. Okay. Now let us assume I'm not handling this one. I am going with the default handler. I will just close this. So I will enter here 12. You see exception? You see? This is a
Yes.
Yeah.
valid age exception.
Yes.
And whatever message I pass, I'm getting this. And which line number is throwing? It's throwing its line number.
I'm not sure what you are trying to edit.
So it's throwing in the line number 9. Okay. And here, you all are able to understand this flow, right?
Yes.
Any question? Bonita?
No, Abhinav, I understood.
It's nothing, it's pretty straightforward. Okay. The only thing you have to remember, like they will ask you, okay. So now one more thing that you have to understand. So we have learned about throw, right? So the question and throws. So you see this is throws, and you can see here throw. The question they will ask you, what is the use of throw keyword, right? So what you will answer?
Yeah, we will.
What is the use of throw keyword? Okay.
It just throws the exception,
Yes.
and yeah, and where the method is being called, right? They have to handle the exception.
Yeah, that is fine. Straightforward, you have to say, like, first of all, this is a keyword, okay, which we are going to use it to throw exception explicitly, right? So here what I am doing, I am, because it's a user-defined exception, so I am throwing explicitly. Even I can throw built-in exception also. So throw is a keyword which help us to throw exception explicitly. The exception either be checked or unchecked. There is no restriction. So with the help of throw, we can create exception, or we can throw exception, checked exception, unchecked exception, user defined exception, or built-in exception. Everything we can throw. with the help of throw keyword. Clear?
Yes.
Yeah. Now they will ask you what is the use of throws. This. So in this one, what you will answer?
Yeah, usually throws keyword will be in the method.
Correct. Now you just
Keyword
go.
is
Yeah, tell
used to declare an exception.
me. Yes. So basically, what is doing? You will see here. You will answer by yourself. Okay. So now go to this method, right? This is the method. Here in line number 9, we are getting exception, and that exception is throws to whom? The person or the method who is going to call check age limit method. So who is calling check age limit method? We are calling check age limit here in
Main method. Yes.
main method. So now we will say that throw is used to propagate the exception to the caller method by specifying at method level. Clear? So who is a
Yeah.
caller method? Main is a caller method, right? So where it will just pass. Let assume if you are having exception and I am calling you. So what you will do, you will pass your exception to me. If someone call me, I will pass my exception to that person with the help of throws keyword. Okay. Okay. So for that also, you can define any checked or unchecked exception at method level. So now you see I have mentioned only one. You can have here, I think, have exception. So you can mention like this many exceptions. Okay. You can throw multiple exceptions to caller method. That is the first point. So one is user defined, another one is built in. IO is built in. Invalid age exception is user defined. Clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now the thing is that you will see now here. If you see, I am throwing this invalid, which is checked exception. If I make it runtime, right? So runtime exception. Sorry. Okay. So for checked exception, it's mandatory to handle. Understand? Or it's mandatory to throws, right? Either it's built-in or user-defined, doesn't matter. So which type of exception? This invalid age exception right now, it's a unchecked exception. For an unchecked exception, there is no restriction to use throws keyword. You can use, you cannot use. Clear? So basic is when exception is unchecked, throws is become optional. If you want, you can have. It's like compiler will not force you. Okay. But for checked, throw is mandatory. Clear?
Yes.
So if you see here, if I make it checked, it's become mandatory. Right? Clear to you all? So now we know about how to create a checked exception, how to create unchecked exception. What is the difference between throw and throws? The must ask question is the difference between throw and throws. So you guys will answer that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now the last point. Last there are 2-3 features as well we have to learn. Okay. So we have remaining 3 minutes left. Okay. So this thing is clear. Uh, Custom exception. So I will move to exception. You remember while teaching method overloading, I said when it's come to exception, there are certain rules which we learn when I teach you exception handling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 3 minutes left. I think Okay, let me do that. Let me have class A and class B who extends A. Okay, and then we are having sum here. Won't take any parameter. Why? And similarly, we are having, you guys will get a better idea. So let think this is throw. Let us this will throw. You name any unchecked exception? Can you guys name unchecked exception?
Null pointer exception.
Arithmetic.
Arithmetic exception.
Okay. So let assume it's throwing arithmetic exception. Okay. Now it's throws exception. Okay. So now let always keep in mind, okay, like basically I used to do that. Parents, like it's not a logical, but always parents, children always do a smaller mistake than parents. Okay, that is like when you are going to deal with exception. If superclass is throwing arithmetic exception, then subclass, right? Say you will see that the class exception of its subclass are from throwable that indicates condition reasonable. Forget about this. It's in more details. It's no use. So basically, if you are throwing unchecked exception on top, and superclass is throwing unchecked exception, then subclass can do four things. The first thing, it cannot throw. It will not throwing anything, which is fine. It can ignore, right? Now the second thing, it will throw the same exception. Throws